Hello everybody and welcome to Britball with the Breens. This time we're here for the playoffs, review of the quarter-final games and looking forward to the semi-final games. But first of all, a few things. Our condolences go out to the Ipswich team who unfortunately lost their general manager / owner. So our condolences to you guys. Hope you are all right. And Chris, you've got something for the GB?
Obviously extend sort of my condolences as well. Also a massive sort of congratulations to the GB Lions for their win against Austria yesterday. The tournament in general has been a really good success. It's been run really well. The stream's been great. And it's good to see the Lions doing well.
Yeah, we are pretty honest here. We don't really follow junior football, university football, or most of the women's game, but it has been good to watch, and I have been watching it, so it's decent.
Yeah, on the note of the under-17s, then the Kent Exiles obviously getting their national championship, and the Eton Jaguars getting their the plate final, so that was good to see as well.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is purely the fact that Kent Exiles have been building their team up year on year. They're under, was it 19s, 17s? Under 17s have been decimating all, so it's a good future for them when those players start coming through at senior level. So we'll get on to the results of the quarterfinals. We'll just go through the order here. So the first game we have is the Solon Thrushes versus the London Hornets. Now, I've been a fan of the Hornets all season. I think they had a really strong team. We did get a message from a friend of ours saying that he thought that the Hornets would be too much physical team for Solon. Solon have had a very good season. They've scored points at will. They've not let much up on defence, and they have a head coach that's won Britball before, so he probably knows how to deal with physicality and get round physicality, as well as his own team being physically strong. So first of all, it's a great result for Solon, like 31-0 in the quarterfinals of the playoffs for a team that ran Kent, who just survived their first season in the Premiership. It is some result. I know it's away from home for London, but and it was close in the first half.
Yeah, I read it was 3-0 at half time as well.
Yeah.
So, a really strong second half from the Thrashers there.
Yeah, which is funny when we mention the physicality is obviously Solon have came through and just went over them. Now, obviously they run a different offense to a lot of people. The last team I remember that ran an offense like that really did well was the team from Sheffield, the Sheffield Predators, when they won Division 1. Played against them in the semi-final. They knocked us out in the semi-final. They went on to win the league, and they've been in the Premiership ever since. So I don't know if they run that system now, but it is a great result for Solon.
Yeah, definitely.
The second result, this one is Northumberland 35 and Shropshire 0. I've got to be honest, I call this one wrong on the winners by a long way. The Shropshire Revolution's defence was very good. I watched the stream. I heard it had been good. It looked good on some of their footage. And if it wasn't for really silly mistakes on offence, I reckon this game would have been what you mentioned and been really, really close. Stay away from number 3. First thing that happened, they throw a pick 6 to him.
I mean, you can't say I didn't warn you. I said
definitely
stay away from Ducey Burwell. And, the first score of the game, isn't it? It's a pick 6 from him. So, the warning sign were there.
Yeah.
You can't give you much more help than that.
I guess from my point of view, looking at that offensive line for Shropshire was massive. But they seemed to avoid the big guys and go after the wee guys. And no matter how you spin it, you're not going to win a game doing that. Like, they need to be taking the biggest guys and letting the running back take on the linebackers rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I think, just from watching the game, the score, I know it's an old cliche, but the scoreline doesn't necessarily tell the whole picture. We thought Shropshire's defence looked alright. They gave up a couple of big passes, but we know how good those outside receivers from Northumberland are.
Yeah.
But is it 6 interceptions? I'm not sure if one of them was a fumble, but there was 3 interceptions in the first quarter of the game. You can't do that in playoff football and win.
If the offense doesn't turn over the ball, this game easy 3-6-0, 3-6 each at half time, and it's game on, and then it becomes a battle of will. But giving up that many turnovers so early on, I remember a coach from Football University saying to me one time when I was playing cornerback is, the sideline has never lost a one-on-one matchup. And I think that's the thing that some of the corners there is they're just push him out so he doesn't have a chance. Get him up to that sideline, really force him into the sideline so he doesn't have a chance to come back and get that ball over your head. But a great win for Northumberland, and they advance on to the finals. I think they're missing a few players for the semi-finals in the next round, judging by what they were saying last week, but we'll find out come the weekend.
Yeah.
An absolute cracker of a game was expected for Sunwell Steelers versus East Kilbride Pirates. They didn't disappoint. As I mentioned last week, East Kilbride's offence has the potential to put up points. They did that very early, and a lot of people might have thought that Sunwell were dead and buried, but no.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of look at 20-0 at half time, and you got to be worried at that point. Spoke to Sunwell's head coach Maxwell. He said EKP really ran the ball well. They got a couple of deep passes. The quarterback was a very big threat in the running game.
We know.
But also he said, they really sort of struggled to get their offense into any sort of rhythm. Their quarterback had a couple of interceptions, and their special teams were making a couple of mistakes, and all these things add up, and you sort of look at 20-0 at half time, and you and I looked at each other watching the score and thought, didn't see this one coming. And I think for possibly the first time they've had to this year, Sunwell have clearly went in at half time, made adjustments. They've made defensive adjustments, they've made offensive adjustments. They said, again, speaking to their head coach, they started to really work the inside run, and they really started getting headway with that. They went behind that. The DBs got more physical. They started competing more on the outside. But even late in the third quarter, it's 20-6 to East Kilbride, and East Kilbride make a goal line stand, and you think that's it at that point. But they get 2 massive touchdowns in the last 5 minutes with a 2-point conversion, and then the extra point to win the game. And honestly, I wish I was there. I followed it on Twitter, and it looked like it was such a phenomenal game of football. And, well, it would lead me to believe that that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and I guess speaking to their head coach again is how much of an effect. He said that he'd rested some players against Lancashire. Actually, the whole starting.
A lot of the
starting offense. Does that have an effect on the slower start they had? It's easy to say yes, no. We're unsure. They maybe just East Kilbride maybe just came out of the blocks firing, just had their way, and then Samuel made the adjustments that East Kilbride couldn't, and they've ran over the line in the end and end up winning this game. But that's a sign of a championship team. So I would guess they're going to learn from that. And this week, I don't think we'll see slow starts from Sunwell.
No, not at all. But that game's also going to be live streamed, so I'll be tuning into that one. That's for sure.
Yeah. The last game in the first division was the Cambridgeshire Cats versus the Sussex Thunder. Again, Sussex haven't really came up against a defence as good as the Cats this year, I don't think, other than possibly the Thrashers. And I think that the Cats will have just been too strong on defence, judging by what one of their players contacted us and said. Sussex came out firing at them. The Cats adjusted on offence to change a game plan and ended up putting up some points. Again, try to think of a funny pun for a 30-minute storm delay with the Thunder was a hard one. So it looked like that allowed Cambridgeshire to kind of steady the ship and get back on and hammer home another touchdown.
Yeah, well, it was a one-score game. 5 minutes into the fourth quarter, there's a delay due to lightning. Sussex obviously calling on their Norse background to try and get a bit of help there.
Thor.
When we spoke to someone from Cambridge, obviously they said, it was, the defensive line from Sussex really messed up a lot of their pre-planned plays.
Yeah.
And that can really upset an offence. You really want to get those plays in early. You've spent probably the majority of your practice working on that 15 plays or whatever. And when that gets messed up, it makes it difficult. Obviously, a one-score game going into the weather delay, and then Cats come out and get that two-score cushion in the fourth quarter, and it's obviously been enough just to finish the game out.
Yeah. Again, seem like a good team. The Cats, they have been all season. Obviously we'll go on to discuss what we think about them versus Solon in the next round later on. Into Division 2, Birmingham Bulls 43, Staffordshire Surge 6. Now this started Staffordshire up 6-0, didn't last very long. And the Bulls have obviously came through and really asserted their dominance on Staffordshire in the end. Now that's 3 times they've played them, 3 big victories, so the Bulls look strong at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Surge, you had to have kind of got into that playoffs and thought, oh no, not again. They lost twice to the Bulls. They're going to have to face them a third time going to Birmingham. But we know that these kind of games, it becomes really difficult to beat the opponents because you get to know each other, you know the plays, you know what's coming, you get to know situational, what they're planning. But when we spoke to the head coach, Matthew Sheldon, he said that this game was purely won in the trenches, sort of between the offensive line and the defensive line. Both won their battles the whole way through the game, and that sort of really made the difference in the end. And, when your lines are winning the battle, you're going to win the football game. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
We're big preachers of the best teams have the best defensive lines. You've got a good offensive line, you can run the ball, you can pass the ball, you score points. Also on defense, obviously, if you've got the best defensive line, you can rush the quarterback, you can stuff the run, you make teams one-dimensional, it becomes difficult to beat.
Yeah.
And it looked exactly like that's what the Bulls have went and done.
Yeah, and they've looked like a good team all year, so it wouldn't surprise me if they continue that. The next game, Halton Spartans 37, Dumfries Hunters 7. Outside of some cheeky devil creating a video, at least we called it right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, Halton obviously found a way round Dumfries early. The scoreline makes it look like it was comfortable. I've not actually had a chance to see the highlights yet. The only downside for Halton seems to be that one of their running backs broke his leg. However, confident win at home over Dumfries. Can't really say much more than that.
No, I mean, I spoke to Ian Derbyshire, the GM at Halton, and he said they were expecting a physical game from Dumfries, and that's kind of what they got. He spoke about their defence really set the tone early on. They had 3 turnovers at the end of the day, a couple of sacks and a safety. It's always a great performance from your defence. They give you the ball back. The offence really clicked. They scored 6 touchdowns and 5 of them were through the air. We've obviously seen that 50-yard touchdown pass, on those big plays that the Dumfries Hunters don't give up.
I think
so Halton have clearly played an all-round game in this game.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about Halton is they seem to have running game, passing game, a bit of everything there that they can use. So they look like a good team going in the next round. Next game, Clyde Valley Blackhawks 26, Leeds Bobcats 8. Not a result I'm surprised with, and you'll not be surprised either. I think one thing that is apparent is Leeds are horrendously overrated. They have been all season. We've called out a few times in polls as to why they're so high. But I do think that the fact that it was a mud bath will have actually helped Clyde Valley in this sense. I think Clyde Valley are physically stronger and up front than Leeds are, and they've been winning all season, apart from the last 2 games where they'd already secured a number 3 seed. They've been winning all season. They've got a lot of experience in their team, so it's a good home win for them.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a mud bath. If you've not had a chance to see any of the photos, I'd strongly advise it. If you're not familiar with Scottish weather, check it out. You'll see what it's like up here most of the time.
Gary Orr will be raging at his lovely painted field.
Oh yeah, that'll be ruined. It was a really great job of painting it. I love the photos of it, but that'll be destroyed. I spoke last week about how quite often you see the English teams come up and they're surprised by the physicality of the Scottish teams, and that appears to have been the case in this one. Leeds scored off the back of a pick 6, so that Clyde Valley defence didn't really give anything up. They turned the ball over a few times, and at one point it was sort of 8-6 to Leeds, and it would have been quite easy for Clyde Valley, who dropped the last 2 games, to sort of capitulate, but they really pressed on because immediately after the pick 6, one of their rookies took the kick return to the house. Yeah. And if you want a momentum swing in a playoff game, that's how you do it right there. And they just went from strength to strength and run out comfortable winners in the end.
Yeah, and speaking of physicality for Scottish teams, that proved to be the case in the next game. Lincolnshire Bombers put up a cracker of a Twitter post this week. I'm not sure what the oatcakes is about, but the horrible things. But they took on Inverclyde at Lincolnshire, and judging by their comments, the Inverclyde were just physically demanding on their team. Now as we've said before, we know that a lot of the Inverclyde team are ex-West Coast Trojans or ex-other teams. They've got a lot of experience. They've also got a lot of new players. And so they're going to be physical. A team from Glasgow that's not physical is kind of a weird...
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it, and I don't think I ever will. No, so
22-18 victory for the Goliaths is a huge win for them away from home. I think almost everybody called this one wrong. I think I was only a small percentage of the country got this one right. But it seems like it was mostly the physical part of the game that's won Inverclyde Goliaths this game.
Yeah, and it's kind of what we expected from them. Neither of us picked them to win it, and sort of that's on us. But Lincolnshire looked good all year. They'd only lost to the Bulls, which we know how good the Birmingham Bulls are. But Inverclyde really sort of clearly put on a very physical show. They've got a lot of experience in that rookie team, and they really sort of put that to good use.
Yeah. In the Division 2 South playoffs, first game was a repeat of the last game of the season. Essex Spartans 20, Ipswich Cardinals nothing. Essex have been, we've been pretty quiet about this division, purely because we don't really know what to make of it. Essex have undefeated, obviously, they're the number 1 seeds. But as we'll discuss later, how much competition have they had in that division? Ipswich would have been one of their closest rivals, but they've beaten them comfortably 20-0 at home. So there's not really much more we can say about that just now. We've got a bit for later on, but a comfortable win for them in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean, again, we go back to it's sometimes difficult to play a team you've already played and, meet them again. We reached out and we heard back from their head coach, Sean Benton, and he said, a lot along the lines of, again, the sentiment, you're playing against a team you've already played, you've got a week to game plan it, and, they make adjustments to sort of match where they'd maybe fallen short before. It's a shutout win for the defence. They put up 20 points, but they had a couple of scores chalked off as well. So we could easily be looking at a 30 plus point game for Ipswich, and he accepted that they probably didn't play at their best, but they still got a good shutout win.
Yeah, and that's all that matters in the playoffs. Yeah. The next game is South Wales Warriors 28, Bristol Apache 3. South Wales are another team. They've been plodding along all season, won all their games, not really been challenged really at all. And this won't have changed with Bristol coming to them. They look like they've got a very good defence. Their offence has scored a lot of points, but again, we don't know what kind of opponents that's against, so again, a comfortable win for them at home.
Yeah, it's a decent win. They're at home. They're into the next round. Yeah, I'm sure they'd have liked to put up even more points. I'm sure they'd like to held the shutout, but there can't be any complaints about it. They're playing a team that they've already played, and they get the win.
Yeah. Next game in division, London Blitz B 34, Torbay Trojans 7. Now, same with last season, Torbay kind of seemed to be that second best team behind South Wales, but they're really just not at the level of the other top teams in the division. Blitz B probably been our favourites to win this division all year, and they look like they put a number on Torbay, especially in the second half.
Yeah, 34-7. I believe it was hard to tell on this one because following it up, the score didn't really get updated until half time and then full time, so it's difficult to gauge if it was ever really close or not. Blitzby have been scoring points for fun all year, not conceding much, and they've just went and done it again.
Yeah. Last game in this one, Norwich Devils 6, Bournemouth Bobcats 30, away from home. Now this is where it's going to come interesting in the next part, is that's a big deficit away from home. That is a good win away from home. They've challenged the London Blitz in the 2 games they've played them this season. And we've said about Norwich not being able to score points this year. They've really struggled to score points at times. And this time, when they've come up against a better team, they've suffered that, and the Bournemouth Bobcats have put up the points on them.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Bournemouth have put up a lot of points on every single team they've played. They even put up a fair amount of points on the Blitz B in that first narrow loss. We're not surprised to see Bournemouth do that well. I still think they're a team to watch. And sort of for that reason, again, it wasn't a surprising result. Norwich, we've kind of been very much Leeds-esque on them, that we think they're overrated. But yeah, it's a good strong win for Bournemouth, and they'll be looking forward to that semi-final.
Yeah, I think they will be. So we'll go into this week's semi-finals. Some of them will be shorter than others, purely because we don't normally do it, but we've sent out some emails for information, and we got quite a lot of responses actually this week, but some of them haven't responded to us and haven't played for a couple of weeks, so we'll see what we can do. So this first game, the London Warriors versus the Manchester Titans. Now, if I'm honest, I cannot see this going any way but a London Warriors thumping, and that's nothing to say against Manchester. I would love to see Manchester go 7 or 14-0 up and make the Warriors have to work for this. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we said, we reached out. We didn't expect to hear anything from the Premiership teams, and especially from the Warriors with their going dark. But from what we've seen from the Warriors last year and what we believe we know about them, they're a very, very physical, run the ball straight at you kind of football team. You know, we know Manchester like, you know, spread offense, a bit of finesse. And I think on this occasion, when it comes to the Warriors, they're just going to be too powerful.
Yeah.
You know, Manchester might do a few things. I think that they'll put up points perhaps, but I just think the Warriors are going to be far too physical at the end of the day.
They're going to have to try and figure out a way to reduce that physicality being such a factor, but I just can't see, because London are just good all over the field, so I just can't see where they're going to get this one. The second Premiership game, however, if you've seen our charts that we put up on Twitter, could be a very close game. Tamworth have been a bit hit or miss this season. They lost 21-0 to Manchester. Everybody knows it was a huge upset. Since then, they've kind of went out, beat everybody handily. London Blitz have had their problems this year. They can't keep up with the Warriors. They've struggled against some of the other teams in that division. And this one could be, with the way that their defences are playing, this could be a very good game to watch.
Yeah, and I think, you know, these two teams and the couple of times they've met over the last couple of years, the games have generally been good. You know, Tamworth's Britball win was an incredible game of football to watch. Neither team will really be that pleased with how they've played this year, I'd imagine. You know, they'll both really be looking to try and, you know, give themselves at least a shot of winning Britball this year. I think, you know, from what we've said about the Warriors, realistically, the only hope that we've maybe got of, you know, a really close competitive Britball is if Tamworth turn up and blow the Blitz away. I can't see it, but I still fancy Tamworth to win a squeaker.
Yeah, you know this, I really didn't want to call this one. However, because you've called Tamworth, I think the Blitz will want to show up. They weren't in Britball last year. I think they're going to want to show up and go, right, we're going to try and get to Britball again this year. However, they're going to have a tough time, but I have put them down to win by 3 points, but I'm just not overly sure who's going to win. In Division 1, first game, we have the Solon Thrashers versus Cambridgeshire Cats. Now, as we said already, Cambridgeshire have been in touch with us. Solon look, to me, like the only team that really get in Sunwell's way all season, really. Their defence just doesn't give up many points at all, even against the Hornets last week. Gave up nothing. Their offence, although unorthodox, scores points, and I think the Cambridgeshire Cats have a more physical defence than the Hornets, and possibly a slightly better offence than the Hornets, but I'm still thinking they're going to struggle here against Solon.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one. Solon have obviously looked really good. The Cats have also looked impressive. They've both got wins over the Thunder now. On the flip side of that, Solon really easily dispatched the Hornets, whereas the Cats had a bit more trouble with them.
Yeah.
You know, I guess where it'll be interesting to me is when, you know, it said it was 3-0 to Solon against the Hornets at half time. If this game's 7-3 to the Cats at half time, you know, does that really affect the rhythm of Solon? Can they maybe not put up the points in such a hurry against this Cats defence? I've sided with the Cats all year. I've also sided with Solon all year. I think I fancy the Thrashers to win this one, but I think it could be close.
Yeah, I think it will be a close game. As you said, if it was only 7-0 last week at half time, if Cambridgeshire can go into the half in the lead, they might get their tails up. But that Solon Thrashers head coach, along with the experience, I think even if they're down at half time, they might just push on. The second game in Division 1, The other semi-final, Sunwell Steelers versus Northumberland Vikings. Now, as I said earlier, I don't see Sunwell coming out slow this week. They can't afford to, really. Northumberland don't give up much on defence. I think the one thing, again, that Sunwell might have over them is that although Northumberland's defensive line is very good, I think Sunwell will still be able to run the ball. They've got some good DBs in Northumberland. They've had Connor Joyce there for years. They've got a semi-professional, ex-semi-professional rugby player now playing slot corner safety kind of position. I played against him. He's extremely fast. He's physical. So I guess it's like Coach from Sunwell Steelers said. It's about winning those one-on-one matchups.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for this team is you're talking about a team that went 10-0, weren't really challenged all year. Their closest challenge was when they rested guys against Lancashire, as we previously discussed. The head coach said that they'd passed the ball around for fun. They won games with a base defence. And as the years progressed, they've kind of focused on the run game. They've added wrinkles to the defence, and clearly they needed every inch of that with East Kilbride.
Yeah.
The element that comes in is that because they haven't had to compete in a game all year. Northumberland have obviously been in those games. They had a 7-3 win against Aberdeen. They had the 8-5 defeat to East Kilbride, the 5-0 win against East Kilbride. They had a close game with Glasgow. Northumberland have been in these games.
Yeah.
I think it was huge for Sunwell, obviously, to get overturn that score, obviously because they're now through to the semi-final as a result, but it at least shows us that both these teams are able of winning those tight contests. It'll be interesting to see which way this one goes, and I'll repeat my sentiments again. For the love of all that is holy, stay away from Ducey Burwell. Number 3, he causes problems, and as you've said, Connor Joyce as well. Number 21, their safety.
I think reading what the head coach from Sunwell said there is, I'm just not sure they'll have to come out their base defence to stop Northumberland scoring.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen them play. We've played them twice. They have a strong run game, but can they produce that against Sunwell? I'm not sure. Do they have a quarterback like Bapte from East Kilbride? No. Like, he's athletic, but he's not that guy. I think Sam will win this one. I don't think they're going to blow Northumberland away, but I think they win this one.
Yeah, and let's not forget that this is a Northumberland team that beat Sunwell by a point in last year's playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that'll be sitting in the back of the Steelers' heads going into this game.
Yeah. So into Division 2 playoffs. Our first game here, Birmingham Bulls versus Inverclyde Goliaths. Now, we have said numerous times from experience last year that the Birmingham Bulls are a very physical team. Their coach said about beating the Surge in the trenches. And then Lincolnshire have said that Inverclyde are an extremely physical team. So this could be whoever is the most physical. Who is the biggest, strongest, and most willing to shift everybody out of the way.
Yeah, and I mean, those kind of games often lead to 6-3, war of attrition type, locking heads the whole game kind of games. They're obviously both physical sides. We know this, from the experienced guys. Inverclyde are really going to have to rely on those experienced guys. Birmingham's head coach had said to us that the focus was on securing Division 1 football. They know they have to win this game to secure promotion.
Yeah.
I think they'll be extremely hungry for it. Inverclyde have already pulled off one upset. I think it might just be a bit too much physicality. Physicality on physicality might make a huge difference. The head coach described his defence as suffocating and aggressive, and we know that to be true. They've the offense has found a rhythm this year. They've had a QB battle between their quarterbacks, Alex Back and AJ Mepstead, I believe. Sorry if I got that wrong. And that's helped really spur on their offense in the passing game. They've got a lot of experienced heads come back, come from other teams, and a lot of good rookies come in. He's given us a long list of players that are real playmakers, make big difference to the game, and I think they're going to call on that experience, and it's going to come through in the end.
Yeah, one guy I follow on Instagram's Josh Kelly, and he's a unit of a guy, and I think he'll have made a massive difference to the Bulls' offense. As we said, the defense was already good last season, but they just struggled to put up points in the key moments against harder teams. So coming down this physical battle, I think the Bulls take this one. 2 long trips away from Inverclyde, Lincolnshire, now all the way down to Birmingham. It's a lot of travelling to do in 1 week for 2 physical battles. The second game is Halton Spartans versus the Clyde Valley Blackhawks. Now I'm going to be hated by Clyde Valley here, purely because I think that Halton have too much variety for Clyde Valley to stop them scoring, and I say that purely because when Clyde Valley are so physical up front, they're good. They're a good solid team. But their offense doesn't have a huge amount of, or it hasn't in the past had a huge amount of variety to it. They can't score points really quickly, whereas Halton seem to be able to do that whenever they feel like it. So I think the interesting thing for me will be, can Halton get their offense going? If they can, I don't think Clyde Valley will be able to stick with them. However, I can't see... I can see a close battle to start with anyway, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place here, because first off, I don't want to end up as a meme. And secondly, I obviously know a lot of the guys down at Clyde Valley, so whoever I pick, I'm going to end up in the doghouse. It does come down to that physicality again. We spoke about Dumfries. If they could bring it and bring the physicality, they obviously did, but were overpowered. Clyde Valley, they have a lot of experience in that team. Guys that have been there, done it, got the t-shirt. Probably the t-shirt's got holes in it, and they've bought a new one by this point.
Yeah.
They're going to be very physical. I think they're going to come with a well-organised game plan on defence. And yeah, it does come down to that. If Halton's offence does get going and start scoring points, can Clyde Valley's keep up? I think the home team has the advantage here, and for that reason I would go with Halton to get the win.
Yeah. Next game in this division, Essex Spartans versus Bournemouth Bobcats. Now, as we said earlier, we don't really know a huge amount about some of these teams. However, there is one comparison we can make here. Now, as much as Essex are undefeated, and they have proved that they are a solid team, they don't give up much points at all. My concern is that they won 8-6 against Norwich, who just got thumped by Bobcats, who travelled to them. So Essex won 8-6 at home, and Bournemouth won 30-6 away from home. I think that has to be the only thing that we can really draw conclusion from, is that this Bournemouth Bobcats team can put up points, and if they come to test Essex, can they hold on to that solid defence they've had all year?
Yeah, and I mean, Essex probably feel a little bit disrespected, and probably rightly so. I mean, they're the number 1 seed, they don't give up many points, they haven't lost a game all year, and I can understand that. There's obviously a lot of questions about the teams they face in their division, from Norwich and Ipswich and East Kent and Maidstone. I think those same questions are still faced by the Bobcats. They have the Blitz B, they played 2 good games against them, but they did lose those games. And outside of the Blitz B, it's relatively poor teams in amongst Bournemouth.
Yeah.
As you say, the only comparison we'll have is that Norwich game. It's always hard to compare.
Yeah.
Week on week, it could be anything. Yeah, I mean this one could be tight. It is going to come down to that Spartans defense. Bournemouth in general have tended to give up points, but they do score them in bundles. Do they manage to do that this week? If the Essex Spartans defence proves to be as tough as it has earlier, then I could see them winning this game. But I think Bournemouth's offence might just have the edge.
Yeah. I think you got an email from Essex Spartans head coach.
I did. I got a very good response from him. He gave me a lot of information about the teams they faced. They pre-seasoned against the Colchester Gladiators and they beat them, and they've been building in confidence year on year. They don't have a lot of new guys coming in.
No.
It's a core of guys that have been there for years and years and years, and I'm sure winning this game and getting promotion would mean a huge amount to those guys. And they have looked good all year, and I think
they implemented some stuff as well, did they?
Yeah, they decided to kind of approach some small changes, and they basically what the head coach had said is they wanted to look at what they could do better. Why are we doing what we do? And the way they did that is they looked at all the small things. Why are we telling the players to do this? Why are the coaches doing things this way? They spent a lot more time breaking down film and analysing it. They made positional leaders, and they looked at like mental health ambassadors. They got
always
guys
important.
And focused on the mental health of the team. And in all honesty, I'd like to take a minute just to give a shout out to that, because we're a sport that's generally notoriously bad for ignoring these sort of things, because we're all we're
tough guys.
Yeah, we're manly men sort of thing. I appreciate women also do play in it as in the national leagues as well, but it's important. The mental health of the players is huge, and spending some time investing in that will always give results.
Yeah, and that's shown this year. So be interesting to see how they do here. I think they're going to struggle against Bournemouth, but it's nice to hear that team has implemented stuff to make changes, and you can always grow on that. You can always go year after year and build on that. Now they've got a core group, more people might want to join it because of those values they have in place.
Yeah, especially in a very crowded Essex area as well.
Yeah, very crowded. Last game here, South Wales Warriors versus the London Blitz B. Now, London Blitz B are undefeated. They've been run close twice. South Wales Warriors are undefeated. They've not really been run close at all.
They ran close once by the Trojans.
So they did. They got run close once by the Torby Trojans, who the London Blitz dispatched quite easily. For me, the biggest thing is going to be, can London Blitz travel to South Wales and still put up a performance like they've done all year. Like, they have obviously got an offence that can score points. They leaked points to Bournemouth. South Wales Warriors, even against Torbay, that close game, didn't leak much points. But again, they've had that one game where they didn't really score many. So there's so much going on that for me, it could easily be a tie. But I actually think that the South Wales Warriors might win this one.
Yeah, I mean, normally you get that sort of old cliche that it's unstoppable force, immovable object. One team has a great offense, the other team has a great defense. The unique thing about this game is both these teams score points in bucket loads, and in general both teams have had stingy defenses outside of sort of the Blitz with Bournemouth. You've backed the Blitz A team, and you backed South Wales in this one, and I backed Tamworth against the Blitz A team, and I'm actually going to back the Blitz B in this one. I think they score a lot of points. I think they've got a lot of guys within the organisation to call upon. For me, this is probably the game to watch out of Division 2. It'll be interesting to see what the score is, but I think the Blitz B can get it done.
Yeah, it's going to be, to be fair, there's a good group of games again. I'm not sure I see any blowouts other than London. The games look competitive in Division 2. They look like they'll be really competitive in Division 1. but you just never tell. It's so hard to gauge, but we'll see how these games play out. First of all, thanks to everyone that got back to us, emails. Okay, it's been nice to hear from some of the teams. We don't normally do that. We normally just give our own judgment on what we see every week. But it's nice to hear some stuff back from you guys. Help us out with some knowing more about the teams, especially down south. But let's look forward to another weekend of football this weekend, and hopefully some really good results.
Yeah, and go Lions on Saturday.
Yeah, go Lions on Saturday. How much do they have to win by?
I think it's over 6 points against Finland.
So, by over 6 points, and they'll be the European champions, I believe. So, you guys should go after it. And we'll see you next week for the finals.